You guys out there in TV land have a hot rod project where off-the-shelf radiator hoses just won't fit? Well, stick around. I'm going to try to save you a little bit of money. What's up, guys? I'm Jeremy. Welcome back to Catfish Motorsports. Today, we're out here working on my 1966 Fairlane gasser project. Now, this car would have come with a little bitty 289 and a little bitty skinny radiator stuck in here. And I have a 500 cubic inch big block Ford and a huge radiator that would have come out of like a 1984 F-250. As you might guess, absolutely nothing off the shelf fits in this car. Everything's been a fight, headers have been brutal, and we're up to radiator hoses. In my case, the lower radiator hose specifically is a big problem because not only did this engine and radiator not come in the car, but I've got an external oil pump in the way. So I got to make a couple of pretty big bends to get a radiator hose in here that fits even close to correctly. So if factory radiator hoses won't fit, what are your options? Well, most of us have probably done this before. You take a piece of TIG rod, bend it in the shape you need, and then go to your parts store and just ask them to let you walk around the back and look and see if you can get something to match. Might work, might not. Kind of just depends on what they have in stock and how gnarly of bends you need. Another option would be one of those kind of universal corrugated flexible hoses. But if you have more than one complex bend, those just flat out aren't going to work because you're going to end up kinking them. Plus, you can't trim those at all because they're corrugated in the middle and they've got sort of set hose ends. So you can't really do much with them. It either fits or it doesn't. Then your next option is going to be to buy these silicone universal bends. This is a 45-degree bend. They come in 45s, 90s, straights, 180s, 135s, whatever you need. And then you join them together with just these aluminum straight couplers here. This totally works. Man, can it just get expensive. I mean, these bends, even for somewhere like Amazon, are anywhere from like $15 to about $30 a piece. Maybe you could get them off of Temu or something like that for cheaper. But there's a middle path where you kind of use the same tactics, but don't necessarily have to pay all the money for these individual bends. And that's just taking regular off-the-shelf radiator hoses with bends in them, cutting them where you need to, and then using those same couplers to join them up. In my case, I had already gotten started with this guy. This was just a hose I had laying around, and I bought the couplers. The one that's in here now is off of Summit. It was like $6. This is off Amazon, came in a 2-pack. To be completely honest, I kind of like the Summit one better, just because it's a touch shorter, so you can make tighter bends. These dudes here are a little bit long for my taste, but they will work. Now, because I needed a complex bend, probably more than one, I couldn't quite get it out of one radiator hose, at least not the one that I had. So this morning, again, middle path, I took this up to the parts store and just sort of walked around until I found one that was both the diameter I needed and had this big U-bend that I sort of needed, plus a 90 on the end, which I kind of need too. Now, I was in a hurry, so I had to pay, $30 for this O'Reilly's price. If you were to buy this same Gates 22-433 hose off eBay or Summit or whatever, and you were willing to wait for shipping, it'd probably be cheaper. The other thing I would say with Summit specifically is with Summit, you can filter by in size, so you can just make sure you're getting the sizes that you need, and then just look for one that has the most bend for the buck, as it were. Just look for one that has the biggest, craziest bends in it for the cheapest amount of money, and then you just cut the fit from there with 2 or 3 of these couplers. Most of the time, you're not going to have to get as crazy as I did because you probably don't have to contend with an external oil pump. But hey, from here, you're just going to pick a spot, put it on either your radiator or your water pump, and start cutting to fit. You don't have to, I'm using my bandsaw to cut these, so it makes it nice and straight, but you can cut them with a hacksaw, you can cut it with a razor blade. You don't need any fancy tools to do this. Just a marker to mark your cuts, and then start putting the couplers on, and just go about it until you get there. Hopefully you get it all done in one cut. But either way, even paying the O'Reilly's price for this, $30 compared to, paying for 3 bends of these at like $15 to $30 a piece, I would have been into that like $100 for a radiator hose, where now, again, even paying parts store prices, I'm only going to be in like 40 bucks. I've never done the Steve Dulcich thing where you grease hose ends. But in a case like this, you might be on to something there if you ever want these to come apart again. What's the worst that happens? And boom, there you go. Finished product. Now, if you cared about the aesthetics of this, you could trim this off flatter and push it up so they butt up, kind of like this side does, where it's kind of harder to tell that there's a sleeve in there. I don't care. But if you do, you have that option. Even if you cut it off too short, you could just grab another section, cut a flat sleeve off, put it in the middle, and chances are, unless somebody was crazy up close on your radiator hoses, and why would they be, you would never know that this isn't one continuous hose. But to be honest, you're gonna have to put clamps on this and it's gonna give it away anyway, so who cares? Few hose clamps and you have a perfectly functional hose that didn't cost you $100 in bins to make. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Hopefully I saved you a little bit of money. We'll see you next time.